Episode 9, Raiding in the Burning Crusade. First screenshot here finds us in the Shadow Labs assisting Scarborough and a few other guildmates gear up and get ready for raiding. Quickly find ourselves in the Eye instance dungeon zone. We are running for our lives from one of our first pulls, if I recall correctly. Tank lost aggro or died quickly here, and everybody was making their way out. As you can see here in this next screenshot, we are just busting for the portal. Finally, we are getting set up for our first pull of Alar. Don't recall exactly if this was the very first one or not, but as you can see, I've still got some blues on, some T4 mainly from Karazhan. Yeah, as you saw in the previous vlog, that's kind of where I started my raiding career. For Mandia. Now we're still in Karazhan here, running with the main group this time, and I think this time, yes. So Dark Lady was still banned, so she was running with her mage that we had power leveled to 70. And she would actually jump in and out as well, like once she did get her warlock back later on, you could see her like getting summoned in because she wanted a piece of gear, and then heading back out, letting her warlock come back online. Actually, yeah, you can kind of see that that might have been what she was doing here. Getting ready for another pull, getting those lovely cookies from our friendly warlock. And we're about to pull Nightbane outside Karazhan. Here we are again. This, you know, it's a pretty common theme with my guild early in zones to have to run from pulls. And this one we were fortunate enough, the portal was close enough that you could get out in time. A lot of times you were way too far from the entrance and everybody just had to die as quickly as possible so you can get up, use those soul stones and res everyone and get right back to the next pull. Cool shot here with one of my friends, Impala, great shaman healer back then. Really one of the healers that I was inspired to be like, just by how solid they were and how good of a person. Impala's a great guy. I didn't speak to him that much, but he was always someone you could count on if you needed a solid healer to back you up. Here we are. We've got a lineup here, police lineup. It's a Chan notice right here. You see Rachel saying this is getting ridiculous. Well, we were getting, this was a long night. As you can see, we're almost done for the night. I think we usually ended around 10 p.m., but we had spent most of the night, starting at 7 p.m., 2 hours earlier, just on trying to down Alar. And here we are. Oh, this is my first time getting invited to ZA. ZA must have just launched recently. You know, it came in a patch later in the Burning Crusade, and I was very fortunate enough to be deemed good enough, or maybe I was the only healer online at the time. I don't recall, but my guild leader, Dark Lady, invited me to ZA. And I said I'm going to give it my best shot, and I did. Here we are. We got the bear boss down, one of the first ones. The main tanks died. Chan was the backup, and Wall is down. So, oops, on us. However, we did get the kill. You'll notice right down here that my shadow damage from Shadow Word Pain, because all good priests should always have that up, right? Except maybe in vanilla when they had the 8 slots only, or 16 limit. But I was always trying to do DPS as a priest back then. It wasn't... if I had extra mana and I was towards the top, I wanted to make sure I was doing damage. Or, conversely, if we got close and people started to die, I was always trying to get a Mind Blast in or Shadow Word Death. Something to help out. There have been a few times where that's actually come in handy. And Gruul's Lair. Very common scene for me. Dead as an angel. And we've got a little pre-raid prep talk from our our tank wall. Oh, shenanigans abound. This guy was awesome. I really miss him. He kind of, I think it was towards the end of Wrath, he died off. And probably just, he'd been tanking for 2 expansions, man. Main tanking. I can't imagine what that did to him. I was, you know, 3/4 time to full-time healer through those 2 expansions. He was there night after night, all the time. Just, I can't imagine how that wears on you. Next one finds us running Karazhan and getting shade wiped. As you can see here, Mandia is laying on the ground in kind of a cool position. It's a cool little shot here. All those shades just wiped out our whole group. I don't remember if somebody just ran through not seeing them because they were kind of hard to see if you looked at them at the wrong angle, or maybe you didn't have your NPC nameplates up properly. But eventually we took them out and moved on to the next boss in the Guardian's Library. Here we are, taking down Nether Spite. I believe I had the tier 4 helm at this point. Don't recall, it might have been a lookalike. Kara had a few of those where the items looked almost exactly like the tier helms for tier 4. Going off memory. Try and look it up during the editing of this video, but we were able to actually kill Nether Spite. Once again, our smite, because like we said, a good holy priest is always looking to do damage and steal a kill. We were able to take him down. There's Impala once again helping us out on the heals. First look at Magtheridon. Such an awesome fight. I remember from Warcraft, is it Warcraft 3? Yeah, with Grom. That was so cool when he fought one of the Pit Lords. And getting to fight one in World of Warcraft was another one of those like milestones from strategy game. Getting to see it in person, you know, kind of through your character. So it was just really cool. Here's another great shot from above before you get down there. I bet you it was from a wipe. Yeah, look at the bones. See? You can see them all. And here's Scarborough. He is not in the group, so he was not one of our main tanks at the time. He was still looking to gear up. He was definitely a great min-maxer. Very good guy to make sure he was ready before he came into anything, unlike moi, where I was willing to try anything even if I wasn't necessarily geared properly or spec'd all the way. I wanted to try it and see if I couldn't. It was a challenge. And, you know, that's something I enjoyed about World of Warcraft. Here we are. It looks like we finally got Mag down. And we are all doing our little victory poses. Everybody's busting out different gear. Wall's naked or wearing a dress. No surprise there. Here we are spiking Magtheridon's head on the post here. We've got the victory going on and Hellfire Peninsula, and we're all just flying around it. You see all the nether drakes. Everyone had grinded their nether drake except me. I had my hippogriff because that's what I always wanted. Even though I didn't like night elves, I really loved their mounts from Warcraft 3, the archers. Those were so cool. I really like those, and I think I flew the hippogriff on Mandia until I stopped playing in Warlords of Draenor, honestly. Another good shot of that. And here we are in SSC. We're got a first victory over Hydros. Cool, you can see I got my pirate gear on again. That was something I carried with me for a while. It's kind of like, oh, there's Mandia, pirate. This was after we had ground the pirates rep and spent that whole afternoon in Booty Bay. And, oh, yes, add-ons. I wanted to make sure I pointed that out in one of these screenshots. We have Healbot going at last. In Gruul's, I'd been talked to about my healing, if you recall, and I finally got an add-on to address that, and Healbot was the first one I chose. It's probably one of the easier ones to set up, although later on I went with Click and I think, Bartender and Click, that's right. Man, it's been a while. But yeah, for most of Burning Crusade, I think a little bit of Wrath, I had Healbot, and it served me well. Did what I needed to do. I had it set up how I liked it eventually, and as you can see, you'll see later some of my healing numbers reflected that. More chess. Probably my favorite in Karazhan was to play the chess encounter. It is just really cool. I love chess, and I loved Karazhan, so best of both worlds. And we've got a Naked Rogue sighting. But Myron had come in for a drop, and I don't believe it got it. And Myron was hearthing out, so we could get one of our other guildmates back in. Alright, we got the Lurker below taken out here for the first time. Wall's all dressed up. My timing's horrible. I don't have my pirate gear on. We must not have done the guild screenshot yet. And another one from Karazhan. We keep jumping around a little bit, but you know, I didn't take screenshots consistently back then. I wasn't planning on documenting it at the time, but I'm really glad I at least have these screenshots to go off of. But we are in the guest chambers, taking out the hostesses and the concubines. And then taking out some of the elemental and the robots. But the arcane protector here, looks like we stole a kill on one of them. Yeah, Shadow Word Death. Ooh, we crit, 1757. Alright, so here's one that I don't remember. I thought I had the helm, but that's just where I think it might have been something else, because I specifically remember this instance. I was in with the B team one night, I was a little late, and I believe I worked that night, so I got back, and at the end, we finally took down the last boss, and the helm I'd been waiting for dropped, and I didn't even get a chance to roll on it. They just assumed that I had it. That's what it turned out to be. It was kind of a big deal. I mean, I try not to be too picky about loot, but I really wanted to get on the main rating, so I wanted to make sure I had the best gear available so that I could prove myself. It's kind of vicious. Looking back, I wish I hadn't been such a jerk about it at times, but, you know, I was pushing, and my goal was to get in the bigger raids and see it all. I wanted to see everything that raiding had to offer in Burning Crusade, and loot was a big part of that, getting your numbers up. Looks like Mandia stole another kill here on Nether Spite. This time it was Mind Blast. Back in SSC. And I'm always resurrecting Scar. It looks like Scar's finally with the main raid group. I think he was DPSing at this time, just judging from his gear. He was an engineer, so he made the DPS goggles. And there's some inappropriate behavior here by my guildmates. Leothoros the Blind, one of our first pulls, and I think we tried to pull him to the edge of the room, or somebody's pet had pulled something. Yeah. Yep, sorry, my pet wasn't attacking. He took us out. First pulls on bosses, always a bit of a challenge until you get the strategy down. And here's Mandia as a angel. Looks like he enraged on us. We weren't able to get him down in time, judging by chat. Alright, summoning guildmates. And here we are, ready to go. My hit rating was 0. You can see this is when they still had the bonus damage and the bonus healing separated. I had 2,000 bonus healing and 1812, or 812, pardon me, is my bonus damage. So I wasn't quite doing a ton of damage when I was casting, but I was hitting up pretty good on the heals at this time. For the gear I had, I thought. No fun picture. There's my tier 4 helm. I finally got it. Sitting in the cookie jar. And we died right next to him. I think we were probably trying to melee at that point. Sometimes I just run up and try and beat him with the staff or the hammer later on that I got from Karzhan. Oh, pre-raid shenanigans. If I recall correctly, we were just waiting on someone else to finish up the Karzhan key quest, so we're all standing here and they're about to turn it in. And Wall got shrunk. Too much Nogfogger elixir. And Scarborough getting to off tank or secondary tank for Wall. He was very happy. I remember that. He was super stoked. He looked up to Wall quite a bit, and they talked a lot about tanking strategies. I think Wall was a little more like me, though. He wasn't as much numbers guy, but more just, you know, make sure he had the right gear and then kind of getting a feel for his character and knowing what to do. I know that sounds kind of funny, but you know how some people are more athletes than they are, like, I don't know, think about the science behind it. Yeah, I think you know what I mean. But we were able to kill Toonman the Huntsman with Shadow Word Death, and it looks like he resisted a little bit, but we were able to take him out. Just running through the grand ballroom here, don't mind us, guests. Another Holy Nova. I mean, not that I would ever spend mana on that spell. Here we are summoning more guildmates. And this is right before Nightbane, if I recall correctly, and Scarborough still with us here. It looks like he's actually the main tank for this one, and Welfare, Wall's alt shaman, came in for some loot. Ah, victory! Leothoros the Blind is dead. Oh, and I had my Orb of Transfiguration. Yeah, so I could turn into a dwarf. Since I love dwarfs and trolls, it was perfect. Trolls turned into dwarfs. Really sought after that item. There was a boss that spawned as a rare in Dire Maul, the arena in there. and they dropped this pretty, decent drop rate, and I went in there and killed them as much as I could, but I believe I had to buy it off the auction house eventually. It never did drop for me. Got another pirate in the background. Another shot of that real quick. Moving on. Oh, healing numbers. So we had recount here. I believe I just installed it recently. And we are comparing our healing numbers to everyone else. Now this was not definitive since I was the one casting the spells. If I recall correctly, not everything anybody else, like another character would cast, would be recorded. I just remember some of the healing numbers posted on the guild website were different from what I had, but it was pretty close. It could give you a good feel if you were doing alright or you were struggling. And we are ready to go. Melee Priest reporting for duty. Looks like Foe Reaver is down. That was a big moment in the eye because he dropped the tier 5 shoulders I was after. That was something I really wanted, those angel wings. You'll get to see them a little bit later. Oh, spoiler alert! Here we are, dead again from another pull. Looks like Hydros this time. And yeah, I died a lot back then. If I sometimes did naughty things and got myself killed. But usually I was trying to help my guildmates. And here's some overheal numbers from Lurker. That was another thing I tried to work on, was not wasting mana and overhealing. As you can see, Mauhan, which is probably our best healer in the guild, just hands down. That guy was amazing. I don't know if he's still in the guild or not, but he was there for a long time. Great druid healer. And here are our healing numbers. As you can see, he beat me out, quote unquote. I just tried to be up here in the top 3. At this time with my gear, I believe he outgeared me technically by like item numbers, or what we used back then for item numbers. But I definitely was pushing a little bit above, I believe, where my station as far as gear. Back to Magtheridon's lair, and I was linking what dropped for Scarborough because he was not there still. He wasn't quite in the main raid group. And Chon was actually the off-tank. I believe he had just been recruited recently, like the last couple months before this. But he was a very good tank as well. He led one of the car groups. You've probably seen him in a couple other screenshots. More Magtheridon. That must have been pre-pull. I apologize. There's a couple of us trying to take Mag down again. Now we're back in SSC with the giant. His fart bubble. Oh, that's just what I remember. I'm sorry. Not trying to be extra crude, but he would fart a bubble and then pop it and smell it and wipe in front of him like it smelled horrible, which I'm sure it did. This guy's been down here for a long time, so I can only imagine. Look at that, another run. Yeah, at least he ran a little bit faster, although he ran all the way back from Zangermarsh. This was quite a long run. Back in Karazhan, we are killing some trash, and Scar, you can see him sneaking up here, is in DPS gear. He always carried that, man. His bags were always full of stuff. Sometimes I had to carry items for him during raids just because his bags were completely full, and I had a ton of room. But as a warrior, you kind of did have to carry. In some fights, you needed that DPS set, I recall. Even though I didn't play like a tank or anything in Burning Crusade for raiding, I do recall that a lot of times only one tank was needed, so you would have to carry a DPS set if you were the off tank. Alternatively, there would be times when 3 tanks would be needed, and another warrior or druid would have to carry another set of gear so that they could tank that third target. Here we are. Oh, one of the trash drops that I actually, one of my guildmates hooked me up with this after this raid. This was an awesome belt. I wore this through the rest of the expansion. The Belt of the Long Road. I was so shocked and thankful when my guildmate made this for me. They literally just made it for me. They're like, do you have this? And I was like, oh no, man, I don't have the stuff yet. And they're like, here, do you have any, a couple of the items? I don't think I had the Nether Vortex or anything, but they got it from the guild bank. Made me the belt and gave it to me because I was one of the raid healers. It was amazing. It's just another thing that made me want to give back to the guild. Here we go. We got Morgrim Tidewalker down, finally. And here's our victory pose. Got Wall as a pirate here. Ava's a pirate. Where am I? Where is Mandy? Oh, Mandy is right here. As dwarf. Next to El Bruto, our shaman. Our only melee shaman. Is a good guy, but he died a lot. Boss would turn around and swat him or step on him quite often, and poof, where'd El Bruto go? Hey, let's res him after this. A little drunk Naxxramas, who didn't love going back and trying to stomp some old hard raids. Of course, this one is still very dangerous at 70 if you were not careful. Another pre-Alar fight. And this one, we actually had to pull in 2 Shadow Priests. I don't remember us doing this very often, if at all, but Nihiv here, actually heaven spelled backwards, was one of our main PvPers in the guild. He PvP'd a ton back then, but every now and then he would come in as a DPS for us if we needed him. He's a good guy. I played with him in Wrath and Kata, and I think a little bit of Pandaland. But as you can see here, we finally got Alar down. Good stuff. Another victory pose. We got Wall with his keg. And Manny over here. And our guild leader. Now this boss. High Astromancer Solarian. She had a staff I desperately wanted. This screenshot is not of that staff dropping for me, but it's of me getting punted into the air by her Wrath. So you would get this on you, and it would punt people up in the air, but you had to like run away from the group, or else I believe you would damage other people when you got knocked up in the air. Don't quote me on that. But it was something you had to like run away, and then I always had to like slow fall myself so that I didn't die, because sometimes people would land and get taken out. So I'd make sure to cast that on myself and keep healing, and when I got closer to the ground, try and throw out some instants, some renews, some palm. Here's, we probably wiped on that last screenshot, I bet you anything. So the next screenshot here is a pre-raid. We're just getting used to this fight and kind of feeling it out. Usually we'd try that at the end of a night, if it was like the next night's goal or next week's goal. Give it, 4 or 5 runs and try and get a feel so that the next week we could take it out pretty easy. As you can see here, my healing done is atrocious. Back to Karzan and some shenanigans. This was definitely an alt run. We've got Snitch here, which is Itch's mage alt. He's just a solid player, so anything he did, he was going to be solid. And you could always count on him to play his class well, no matter what it was. So it's another one of those bring the player, not the class. Or bring the class, not the spec kind of things. You wanted to have a good player, and that was more valuable necessarily in most situations, I would argue, than specifically what a strategy called for. And as you can see, Rakazor, full name, was always getting up on things, testing. That's one of the fun things in WoW, though, right? I mean, getting areas you're not supposed to, especially pre-flying. Here's another good shot. End of the night portal. Thankfully, Tenor here did not put them all on top of each other, because sometimes they would do that, and then you never knew where you were going to end up. Yes. Tier 5 wings. So here is the letter. I'm going to skip ahead to the letter that I was able to finally get the Tier 5 wings. Unfortunately, somebody else had picked them up, so I had delayed gratification. We had to submit tickets and go through a big mess, but eventually I was able to get my pauldrons of the Vanquished Defender. This was one of the highlight moments for me. Sometimes you remember pieces of gear, you remember great boss fights, epic saves, epic kills, those kind of things. This was one of the great loot moments for me, because I got the wings and everybody could see them as well, right? You want to show off a little bit because you worked hard for those. Your guildmates helped get you them. They wanted to see them on you. And here are those wings. I was fortunate enough, I played the card game a little bit, collected that. This was one of the items I got from the card game and redeemed. It was, everybody'd sit around and eat, and you get these little hearts around you. It was just good times, little fun things you could do before raids, or These are the things I carried in my bag. I didn't need extra gear. I could DPS as a priest, man. In my heals gear. ZA, don't believe we're doing bear runs at this point, but yeah, Darshu's here, so we had 3 healers. So we're still getting through ZA. We hadn't quite finished it yet. These were the earlier days. Drunk in ZA. Wall and I had a keg also I could throw down. I got it from the card game, I believe, as well. And I just would get wasted in game with that. Another big moment in game to life after playing Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne, and meeting Lady Vash. We finally got to fight her in World of Warcraft. Another really cool moment, just seeing this epic bridge come up and then unlock. It was, that was a great moment. If they ever release Burning Crusade Classic, I hope if you want to see it, you get to see it, because it was amazing. I definitely highly recommend it. A couple more shots here of us getting to go over there. More healing meters. Yeah, this one was more about me helping some of the newer players in our guild. Souls was a newer healer, and like Azil was, part-time raider. He just wanted to have fun. A couple of other, just, people wanted to play alts, right? You get kind of tired of playing your main and raiding all the time, so we had alt car runs to kind of gear out those characters just for fun. I was paying my dues at this point, as I saw it, because they had helped me get my gear through here on their mains before, so now I was helping their alts get gear. It was kind of funny. You felt like it was I don't want to say a brotherhood, but it was definitely just a great guild to be in. I was very fortunate. So here's our healers channel. As you can see, we had just created this. We're trying to get a little more strategic with our healing in SSC because we've been struggling, and we created this healer channel for CBC healers, and our guild leader always wanted to be in there, and she'd always give us crap. So at one point I finally got control of the channel. I looked up the chat commands and I kicked out our guild leader from healer chat, and as you can see, a very popular move. I should have run for officer at this point, but I did not, and everyone just kind of had a good laugh. Now, if you look at this next screenshot, she had come back, and I actually had to kick her again and ban her. So she'd stay out. I don't remember her coming back a lot from that. It was fun. She never got mad at me or anything. It was just very entertaining. Oh, yeah. So here's a great gear update on my priest. That's why I took the screenshot. A few more healing numbers. Yeah. It's finally gearing up, so I was actually one of the top healers in our guild. And some of these fights were not, a paladin or a druid weren't going to do as well because they were, like, paladin more single target or dual target heals. And the druid, he wasn't able to put his hots on everyone because they're all out of range. And I had, like, circle of healing, palm, just some great AoE healing. You can see down here I even had stock cast because I was working on that MP5 tick. And if you're not familiar with that, I would highly recommend you get used to it if you want to heal in Classic even, because if you wait, I think it's 5 seconds before you start casting again, if you can, mind you, if people are dying, you gotta heal. But if you can wait 5 seconds and then start your heal, your mana regen will start. It will begin. So while you're casting your, 1.5, 2 second heal, you'll be at least generating a little bit more mana. And then if you can do that in between every heal, or even longer sometimes, it was kind of a game. You play this game where you try to get your mana up as high as you could before you had to cast another spell. Without people dying, of course. But it's like a mini game within the game that you looked at. Some people look at healing like whack-a-mole, where you're just trying to keep those numbers up. It's kind of like backwards whack-a-mole. But I kind of tried to look at it as a mana game. That was one of my goals, was to finish the raid with the most mana and the most healing done and the least amount of overhealing. Alright, so we'd finally got Dakara down in ZA. This was the first time we'd finished him off. We had some newer members here. Axios, You might have seen him in some of the guild tabs earlier, but he's a great mage. We got starred in. This was our guild leader's alt, and Scarborough here tanking. No wall in this one. I don't think he was available that night, but we also had 2 ZA runs. See, we had like 3 Karas at one point, 2 ZAs, and 1 main 25-man group. It was a busy guild, man. I was raiding a lot, but I loved every minute of it. And we're going to close here with a shot of Mandia on the Ballisti with Rack and Tenor down here. We're getting ready to fire. We're joking about the Ballista being broken down and unable to use against the Scourge coming at us. But I wanted to break this down into 2 parts because I realized as I was going through all these screenshots, I raided a lot in Burning Crusade, and I want to cover as much as I can. So I figured I'd break this into 2 parts. Hopefully be able to bring some more to you guys in the next part. So if you made it this far, really appreciate it. Throw me a like, throw me a dislike, sub if you want, comment down below please. Thanks again for watching. This is Gaming Past 30, out.